All right, hopefully my voice is going through. I'm going to test it real quick because I am streaming off of my iPad and I want to make sure that it's working properly. Okay, let's see. Look at that. Oh, would you look at that? Now, the only problem is I'm noticing that it's like only capturing, or it's like on the left side of the screen right now, which is weird because it shouldn't be. Maybe that will help. I just still don't want that to come out. So that's better. This whole streaming thing is pretty fun. Okay, that's sort of better. Actually, that's a lot better. Perfect. I'm just doodling. I posted this drawing on Instagram a few minutes ago, but then I realized that it's not done, and I shouldn't post things when they aren't done. I initially just started doodling this and really just wanted to like, I don't know, just, get a little distracted from life. But then it turned into like a Halloween roast. Halloweeny roast maybe. Um just because, everybody's like, "Ooh, spooky season." I don't really want to I realized, after I posted it, like, I'm not really here to make fun of anybody. This is just an art thing. I know it's like, supposed to be silly or whatever. It's not like supposed to be super serious, but also it's just not done. Because I can take this off, and it could very easily be something else entirely. Like, I can do this, for example. I can just make her kind of just like looking at some kind of gem. Like this sort of thing. And just to give it some more pizzazz, because pizzazz is the name of the game. Not this one, but this one. Let's give it a little bit of that. And then you can do something like this. Just touch it up. Then you could do something like this. Like duplicate that. Put this one on top. But then make this one. Ooh. And then you can kind of like reverse it. And then get an eraser. And then you kind of just put all of these together. And then you could add some of these. Oh, not quite so dark. Sparkle, sparkle. Not quite so strong. That's a little bit too strong there. Yeah, something slight like that, and then one could be like on the corner here, like that. And then, bam, she's holding a stone, and nobody's being made fun of. Yep. I just I don't know. I just really wanted to draw and talk. Just hang out. That's all I ever really want, really. No stress, just talking. I was also thinking about the fact that she doesn't really have any nails. I mean, it's implied that she has nails, but let's not imply it anymore. Let's give her nails. There you go. I actually already like this a lot more than her being just mean. I don't really even need to be, I don't know. I just feel like my art doesn't translate well into like roasting people because things can be easily misunderstood when they're written down, and speech bubbles and thought bubbles like those have implications that I don't want to give off. I don't want to, I kind of want to be like a welcoming as much as I can. You know what I mean? I don't like those nails anymore. I just want to be as welcoming as possible, and that's going against the very thing that I stand for. So I don't know. I took it down, and I just want to like add more detail to it. Kind of just talk about the things that I think about whenever I'm drawing, because there is quite a lot going on when I draw. Maybe give her some lips. No. Wait, what? What's going on here? Oh, my pencil's out of battery. That's right, I can charge is quick. Yeah, so this initially just started off as a doodle. And I mean, I feel like that's how most of my art really starts. Like, I don't really sit there and like plan out, like, all right, I'm gonna like draw this now and it's gonna like look exactly like this and whatnot. I feel like, I mean, I don't really have a lot of artist friends, so I don't really know how the art process goes. And whenever I don't know, try to look up like how-to videos, people just hanging out, I feel like unless you follow like a dedicated streamer or something like that, or a lot of these art pages. I mean, just speaking for myself here, artists are kind of strange, right? Like we don't really interact well with others, generally speaking. It's not definite, but I don't know. It just feels a little impersonal at times whenever you're talking to I mean, not talking to an artist, but like you're on like their channel or whatever, and they make it look really easy, and then you kind of just feel intimidated. Maybe that's just me, but I kind of just wanted to hang out because I feel like art is something that's it's stress relieving for me, and I just really like to hang out and talk, not necessarily um, try to teach someone how to do something, but just kind of talk about the things that go through my mind as I'm drawing. And yeah. This should be enough charging. But either way, I really don't want to judge anybody because, I mean, everybody's here trying to do their thing. I'm just trying to figure it out too. It's not a big deal. I just really want to thank my friends. They're always very supportive of everything that I do, and I'm really want to be just shout out Rebecca. Thank you. I know your phone died. If you're really bad, you wanted to hang out and stuff. I know you were also tired, and it happens, and it's okay. I don't want you to feel bad about that. So coloring is really new to me. It's not something I'm really used to. Some of you might know, I'm really new to digital art. It's not something I ever thought that I would do, honestly. It's something that kind of like, I thought about it, but I always thought that it would be too difficult to step away from pen and paper, something that I've always been used to. But if there's one thing that I've learned recently, it's that you really just gotta try to broaden your horizons as much as you can. Like if you're not good at something and you just try it a little bit, that's already doing a lot more than most people do. Like don't feel so discouraged. Try to do your best, forget the rest kind of thing. It's a good lesson. Coloring is, as I was saying, coloring is really new to me. So I just do trial and error, see how things look. If something doesn't look right, just erase it. Simple, really. Goes a long way. Yeah, I kind of want to give her like swirlies for blushies. I have to make it a little lighter, I think. A little wider. And a lot less convoluted. I like it, but it doesn't really go with the theme. Let me check something real quick. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so I mean, this is definitely a test stream because I'm noting now that the audio and visual is not lined up, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You're probably listening to this and not doing what I'm saying. So this is yet another failed attempt at something, which is perfectly fine. It's okay to fail at things. Failing means you're trying. Or at least that's what I tell myself. If I go silent for a while, it's just because I'm super concentrated on something. I don't know. Maybe I'm not cut up for streaming or whatever. Technology doesn't work for me. It's not something that I particularly cared for anyway. I believe that art brings out your inner thoughts better than anything else. Whether it be writing, music. It's a really pure form of expression. Really pure. I think it's a little bit too dark. I don't know what I'm saying. And I'm trying to color right now. Hey, Jen. You could probably hear me, but the video is not lined up with what I'm doing. So, I mean, I don't think it really. I'm not going to talk about the art itself. I'm just going to talk about art itself. Ooh, deep. It is what makes it beautiful. You're right. I was just explaining that coloring is really new to me, so it's really fun to learn something new. And oftentimes, we don't try something because it's hard, and we don't want to fail because failing is hard, and we just want to succeed at what we're best at. Human beings are like that. We're designed to survive, not to try new things. But as they say, fortune favors the bold, right? And I think the same is true with art. I never really got paid for art, nor did I draw as much as I do now before I got into digital art and started broadening my horizons. So, doing what I'm doing now has really helped me in the long run. I think it's going to help me in the long run. Because just sticking to one thing here and there, excuse me, it probably won't take you to where you want to be or where you need to get to. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm really trying my best to try new things. I know that, coloring, and I always talk about that specifically with people, but it's just something that doesn't come naturally to me. But I'm trying to really get I'm really trying to nail it. I'm really trying to get it down packed, I guess. And I really appreciate that. Ever since I was a kid, I'll never forget the first ever class assignment that I had. I was in kindergarten. I didn't go to preschool or anything. I was in kindergarten, and the first assignment that was given to us was to color in an apple. I'll never forget this because it's so fitting. Our thing was to color in an apple, and I colored it green and yellow. I was using I used like a gradient because I that's what I grew up with. Because in my house, my dad really likes green apples, so we just did green apples, you know. The outline was red though, and the first day of kindergarten. So the teacher was like, you know, she grabbed it and she said apples aren't green, and she gave me a new sheet of paper. And obviously, if she did that now, if someone told me that now, I'd laugh in their face and be like, "No, you're neither of us are wrong here. Like, there are green apples. If the assignment calls for red, then that's fine, but I didn't do anything wrong." But the crazy thing about it is, like, I think about it, and the more and more I think about it, like, okay, whatever. Like, the teacher was just like, you know, just trying to do her job or whatever. But the thing is, I feel like that's like one of the most incorrect things you could ever do to a child, especially a 5-year-old, is to get a piece of art of theirs and say, this is wrong. No, it's not, dude. It's actually super right because I was exercising creativity. No one should tell anyone what color the apple is. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. And it happened to me, and I didn't think about it a lot until my adult years when people asked, like, oh, yeah, like, do you remember your first assignment in kindergarten? And it's like, well, yes, I do, actually. I actually do remember that very well. I remember like it's yesterday. See, that's the thing about it, right? That was that one teacher. Because later on, I had professors that, or I'm always used to saying professor, but I had teachers when I was in grade school that I never forget it because his name was, well, his name was Mr. David. So, you know, I thought it was funny that his name was, or his last name was my first name. So naturally, it's like, hi, Mr. David, like, you know, that's a first name. And he's like, oh, it could be both. He's a really nice guy. You know, the hippie type, which is like I've always found to be fun to be around. So very creative. He he saw my potential when I was a kid. Like I was like, you know, it was like the next year, 6, 7 years old. And as you're saying correctly, right? Like there are good art teachers and there are bad art teachers. Because he really, you know, told me like, yeah, like I see what you're doing, like try this. And I remember that he would stand next to me, look over my shoulder and say, very good job. I see what you're going for. You know, things like that, like very good use of, you know, color. I like that you're coloring. I like that you're doing this. I like, you know, do you want to try a different medium? He gave me watercolors. I didn't like watercolors. I still don't. I'm really bad with them. And he would give me the watercolor, and it's like, oh no, okay, well, you could try again, it's fine, like stuff like that. Like it's not optimal. You're not used to it. He wanted to challenge me with the watercolor by giving it to me, and it ended up not being the best use. The best medium that my favorite medium or anything like that, and it still kind of isn't. Like I really don't see how people use watercolor, and I respect those that do. But the point I'm trying to get is that yes, there are good and bad art teachers, definitely, just like with any subject. But it's just the first assignment I ever had in school. That's what it was. I painted or colored. I got a green crayon. They gave us the primary colors, or like the box of 8 crayons, and I didn't even think twice. I just reached for the green and the yellow, because that's what apples were in my head. And I remember that I did it really fast too. I didn't even get to that part of the story. I did it really fast. So then I flipped the sheet over and I started drawing my own stuff on the back of the paper because the assignment wasn't quote unquote done yet. So I wanted to keep drawing because it was art time, right? So keep drawing, keep drawing. And I kept drawing. And then, she also told me, like, oh, no, like, you did it wrong and you drew on the back of the paper. You're not supposed to draw on the back of the paper. She told me that. Teacher told me that. It's like, God, way to, like, snuff out the creativity in a child, for God's sake. Like, cheese. Yes, and I did say cheese. Kind of liking what I'm doing with this now. Um, it's a little backed up, so I don't know if it's ever going to catch up unless I just stop talking completely. But right now, I'm just trying to show some of that red coming off of the gem to see if like I could just mess with the lighting a little bit, so I could show like it's kind of like giving off like an intense red light. No, there is no right or way. There is no right or wrong way to create art. No, there isn't. There is bad art, like for bad purposes, art, and I mean, just like with anything, right? Like something beautiful could be used for bad. Unfortunately, like that's a thing. But art is not inherently bad, I don't think. I mean, just tonight, I'm doing this because I felt like I just wanted to hang out. Mm. Sometimes you just need to hang out. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You are correct about that. I just also like to add, just to continue on the story. I guess it could be the story of the night for my first art stream. Um, when I was home before school, before kindergarten, before all this stuff, my dad, my mom, my brother, even my grandparents. My grandfather was a painter. We all liked art in some capacity. We all drew. We all did different things with art. And that's the thing, right? Like one of the first things I remember that my dad taught me was using multiple colors to create a color, right? Like he taught me about blending, and he taught very simple things. I was a little kid. It's not like I was like a super genius with it or anything like that. But he taught me how to, and essentially the reason I'm saying that is because I got the green and yellow because I wanted to like put yellow within the green. And I don't know. I look back and I just really think like this is definitely something that I should and will always want to do. I always want to be an artist, and I always will be an artist. As a matter of fact, one of my first posts on my Instagram account for my art account was exactly about that. So before my Instagram account was an art account, it was a cosplay account, which is a whole other animal. um, and I was basically explaining because for a while there I was really into cosplaying because I liked making like the props and stuff. But then I realized that it really wasn't, it wasn't something that I wanted to spend a lot of time on. It was just something that it was like a small hobby for a while, and essentially I changed it into the art account because art has always been my passion, and I'm really glad that am able to do this now because it's something that I really enjoy, and we should always do things that we enjoy. It's something that not a lot of us have the opportunity to do. Life gets busy. We're not fully able to do that sometimes. So, what I say is if you're able to, do it. Do what you love. Do what you love to do. That's why I respect friends of mine that do what they want to do and they figured it out, at an early age. It's great. It's fantastic. I'm really happy for you guys. I have a friend who he he works for a charity, a Christian charity, and he does graphic design for them. And it's like, man, amazing. That's what he's wanted to do. Even my very good friend Allende, right? Like he, ever since I've known him, he's always been really interested in sports. And now he works for a Major League Baseball team. Like that's good stuff, man. And some of us figured this out sooner than others. We figure out what we want to do. Sometimes we know our whole lives. Sometimes it takes a while. And the important thing is to just try. It's always you have to try what you love because otherwise life is going to go on anyway. Life is going to go on anyway, and whether or not you try or not, the same amount of time is going to pass, except you're not going to have that thing in the back of your mind like, oh, what if? Yeah, exactly. See, that's the thing. My conclusion when I invested in the iPad was, well, I didn't get into art because I was told by family that it doesn't bring me money. But then I realized, like, okay, but I'm still broke and I didn't do art. So I might as well just be broke while doing art. I might as well try. Might as well try. And if you don't try, you'll never know. You just never will. You need to try. This is why I'm talking to you directly, Jen. I'm talking to you now. You got this. No, you don't hear it often, but I'm telling you that you got this. So go do it. Get out there. Moment of silence because that was deep. Do it. Do it. Just do it. I didn't mean to quote Shia LaBeouf just there. I'm sorry. I kind of really like this experimental thing I went with. I need to find out what this is here because I don't like that. Sorry, talking to myself. I wish it was like completely live so you could see what I'm talking about. What is this? There you go. There you go. Thanks. I'm just trying to give off the so it looks like the little gem is giving off red. Pretty much that's what I'm doing right now. I wish it was like seriously up to speed because it would be much more interesting to like talk while you're seeing what I'm seeing. That's why I'm also leaving it on the big picture as well a lot so you can just see where like where how the small details make a big impact if that makes sense. Um when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an illustrator. I used to draw my own little books and staple them together. Draw a front cover, table of contents. My favorite part was illustrating the cover because I got to write on the bottom, written and illustrated by David Kirkland. I don't know. I just hope with all my heart that somebody out there, I could help somebody out there. You're a little behind. So what would you do to that was so much fun? Because I might have said that a while back ago, and I'm just reading that now. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that. I really do. Ah, make books, right? That makes sense. You see how delayed it is? I just wrote that now. Yeah, I always wanted to make and illustrate books. I always wanted to draw things and make people happy and just continuing on kindergarten, right? So when we used to have art time, I remember that there was one time that the teacher's assistant was in charge of art time or whatever, and she was sitting at the desk, take the art desk or whatever, and all of us were like kind of around her. And I remember that I drew something. I don't remember what I drew, to be honest. I remember that I drew something, and it was like I worked on it really, 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 like intently. Like it was like, oh my god, like this is like the best thing I've ever drawn. Obviously I was like 5. It must have been like a typical 5-year-old drawing, whatever. Excuse me. Um, and I remember that I walked up to her to show her like, look what I did, and maybe she. I don't know what it was, but I remember that she got it and like really didn't look at it and put it on her desk and then gave me a blank paper because she thought I would just want a new paper. But I didn't know how to communicate with her. Like, oh no, like I was just showing you. She kind of just like, oh nice, and like put it aside and gave me a new paper. But she didn't really like have the reaction I wanted her to have. She was just like, cool, here, new paper. It's like, damn. I was like waiting for her to be like, oh my god, this is so nice, like congrats. But if you look back at it now, it's like, it was probably like a typical 5-year-old drawing, right? But even so, I feel like it's really important for us to, to let our kids know that it is a big deal. That it's like, oh, they worked really hard on that, so it's great or whatnot. I don't know what else to add to her, to be honest. I kind of want to just crop the image to kind of like focus on her more instead of like the background. It is disappointing. It was something that was like, oh, I thought she was gonna like really like it. um, I mean, what can you do? It's not like she did it on purpose or anything. She was just trying to do her job. But it's something that it really brings up something here. And Becky, you probably are going to be watching this. I mean, who knows? Pretty sure you are. You do like watching my streams. This one is running a little long, but that's fine. Something that I really admire that you do is that this is what you're studying. You're studying how to speak to children, how to handle their little minds, and it's a beautiful thing. Because the way that we handle young minds is so important. It's the difference between us being happy as adults or being absolutely miserable as adults. Child rearing is so important. And I feel very, very, very humbled by all the things that you've taught me and the things that you've pointed out. Like, hey, language is important. Even when we're speaking to each other as adults, to our friends, everybody, language is so important. You can't just say things. You have to like really understand people. It's really important. And I mean, it all relates to what I'm saying because all of these young memories that I have of art, I just remember being so enthusiastic about art. And even up to high school, Essentially, I took a lot of art classes all throughout, elementary school. In elementary school, my art teachers were like, "Oh my God, this kid's a prodigy," kind of thing. Not really, but they were like, "Oh, he's really enthusiastic about art. Like he should, great job. Like he's always on top of his game." All these things. When I got to middle school, it was much of the same, except it was a little bit more realistic. It was like, "Ah, you need to challenge yourself." They would tell me like not in a kind way. It was kind of like, "Oh no, but you need to try something different. You need to try this medium. You should do this medium." Um, my seventh grade art teacher gave me linoleum blocks, and she was like, "Yeah, like drawing is one thing, carving is another. Try to carve something. Use the negative space better. Blah blah blah. All these things." And she would really, force it on me. When I got to high school, I had the best art teacher I've ever had. He was really, really in touch with expression and what the artist is expressing, why the artist is doing, what is the artist doing, type of thing. Like he gave me the side of art that's often misunderstood. It's not really what you're doing. It's not like it is what you're doing, but it's also what you're not doing, if that makes sense. It's like the idea behind it and the ideas that you're not expressing and the ideas that you are expressing, the intent, what the person is going to see when they, you know, when they look at it in a museum. Part of our homework assignment, I'll never forget this, in that class was to like not only hang up our work in class, but we needed to pick a peer's project and like critique it and talk about their work for like 5 minutes. And it was like part public speaking, part, trying to like understand what they were going through. And it was great. I was in a class that was just full of different artists that would do like expressionism. Some of them did like realism. There were so many different types of artists because it was like a college level class or whatnot. And there was a point where I was the only one doing cartoons or anything remotely close to cartoons, and it was just so fun to like see the differences in art. Basically, I'm getting ahead of myself. But even up to high school, right? Like I was doing so great, but then people started telling me it's not going to get you money. Don't do it. Like just get a real job, study something real, study something, and now, I thank them, but it's also they could have said things a little bit differently because I thank them because an art degree, like what's an art degree? Like okay, like an art degree is an art degree, but also like you don't really need an art degree. You need to know somebody, you need to know a few things here and there, but you don't need to have like an expensive 4-year art degree unless you are legitimately trying to like be like an animator at Pixar or something. And even then, it's really hard to do that. But yeah, um, I'm getting a little ahead of myself now. I think I'm pretty much done with this drawing. If I am going to add something else to it, I will do so at a later date. I think I'm done for now. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. I'm just going to end the stream.